Brian O'Brien, the Colts season, all said and done. A little sooner than I think we wanted, although let's be honest here, we weren't terribly surprised that the Patriots came out and kind of whooped on them a little bit. They are the Patriots, and they're always going to be the team to beat until Tom Brady retires or Bill Belichick goes away, whatever the case may be. Now the Colts are faced with a bunch of decisions as far as some players that are free agents this year. They got to decide to keep them or decide to cut them. There's 14 in all, and there's a few of the bigger names that are out there that I'd like to see them keep and some that I'd like to cut. And I thought we'd go through them a little bit here in a video form instead of me typing it out in 1,000 words and you getting bored halfway through. So here's what I would like to see. Now the first one is Pat McAfee, and if you don't follow Pat McAfee on Twitter, you should, at Pat McAfee Show. Always entertaining and has been a really good voice for the franchise and probably the best punter, I would argue, that the franchise has ever had. The guy can kill it on kickoffs, he can kill it on punts, and he's the guy I think they need to keep, quite honestly. He signed a franchise tag last year, which kept him for another year. They could do that again, but it costs a little extra money, probably more than they want to against the salary cap, and I won't get into all the financials about it. One, because I don't completely understand it myself. But I think you sign Pat McAfee to a long-term deal and keep him around because he's a good voice for the franchise, and he's one hell of a kicker and a punter. Now, speaking of that, you've got Adam Vinatieri, also a free agent this year, and has done very good things for the Colts. As far as field goal kicking goes. That's kind of his only role these days, when he used to handle kickoffs as well, but as he's gotten older and his legs gotten a little weaker, they've turned that over to Pat McAfee. Vinatieri is 40 or 41 years old. Can still hit the field goals from 50 yards out, still a good keep, but how long do you keep him? Is it worth keeping him another year and then dealing with this next year? Do you sign him to a 2-year deal? By then you're looking at him being 42, 43, maybe even a little older. Sooner or later the guy's going to call it quits. I say you go ahead and call it quits now. Cut him loose. Thank you, Adam. Appreciate it. You got a Super Bowl under us. You got 4 or 5 more with the Patriots. No, that's not right. You got 4. You got 4, I think, with the Patriots. So 5 total. You've had a good career. Time to go hit the broadcast booth. Donald Brown. Now here's a guy that for the last couple of years, I, with so many other fans, said, why do we keep him? He was a first-round draft pick a number of years ago, 4 years ago if I'm not mistaken, and I very well may be mistaken on that. But for whatever reason, this year he seemed to turn things around, especially with the whole Trent Richardson thing. Now I'll get to Trent here in just a bit, but I think you keep Donald Brown, and let me explain why. You keep him, not a long-term deal. Running backs, they get banged up fairly easily. Their careers are short. But I think you give Donald another 2 or 3 year deal and show him as the guy, maybe the lead back, and let Trent Richardson next season kind of fill gaps here and there and be a backup to Donald Brown. Or do a 2 running back committee like so many other particular franchises do these days. So I say you keep Donald Brown. Let's move on to Darius Heywood-Bey, who they picked up from the Oakland Raiders. No. I'm just going to say no. Don't keep him. It was a good signing. It sounded good at the time. The guy can't catch a pass to save his life. So many dropped passes right in the middle of the open field that should have been his. Cut him loose. It was a 1-year deal anyway. You're not really losing out on anything. Antoine Bethea. This is another tough call along with Adam Vinatieri. Bethea's been around for a while. He has been to both Super Bowls. The one they won in 07 and the other one they lost to the Saints a couple of years later in the year is, I can't remember off the top of my head. Another tough call. He's hit or miss. He's had some injuries. He gets burned every once in a while. But all in all, I think a good safety. And I think one you may keep around just a little bit longer. Again, not a real long-term deal. He's 29 years old, which by football standards is getting up there in years. But I think you keep him around for another 2, maybe a 3rd year, an option for a 3rd year. But give him another 2-year deal. Keep him around for a little bit. Vontae Davis is a cornerback on the defense. Again, another one that showed some flashes of good play, and I think is another one that you can keep around for another few years. I think you sign Davis to a long-term deal. Cassius Vaughn, another one who had his moments of showing greatness, and I think with some more coaching and some more time in the system, could be a valuable member of the Colts secondary in their cornerback position. So I think you keep him as well. And finally, a guy you may not even really recognize unless you're a really hardcore fan that follows the team real close. Sergio Brown. Now, the only time you really saw Sergio was on kickoff returns. And if you watched any of the games, Sergio Brown was the one who, more times than not, was getting down the field before the ball did. Anytime that they had punt coverage or kickoff coverage and the kickoff maybe didn't get kicked out of the end zone and went back for a touchback, Sergio Brown was the guy that was always there, number 38 if I'm not mistaken, and I may be a little bit on that. But I think you keep Sergio Brown. I think he can be a really good special teams player for the team. That's my picks. That's my keeps. That's my cuts. What do you think? Check out that little poll down there at the bottom of the screen there and tell me who you think the Colts should keep and who the Colts should cut.